I know it might sound ridiculous, but after this happened, I can't go back to Walmart at night. It all started about 6 months ago. I just moved to a new city and was adjusting to the night shifts at my job, which threw off my schedule for things like groceries and errands. So it wasn't unusual for me to end up at Walmart late, sometimes even after midnight. The aisles were usually quiet, the store nearly empty, and I'd actually come to enjoy the calm. That night, though, something was different. It was close to 2 a.m., and the lot was emptier than usual, only a few scattered cars around. As I walked in, there was an eerie, unsettling silence hanging over the place. The usual night staff were there, but they seemed distant, almost like they were distracted. I grabbed a cart, figuring I'd just get in and out, load up on some essentials, and go home. I could already feel the exhaustion hitting me, and I just wanted to crawl into bed. I was in the snacks aisle when I first noticed him. A man, probably mid-40s, standing perfectly still at the end of the aisle, just watching me. His stare was intense, unblinking, as if he was studying me. I tried not to make eye contact and moved further down the aisle, hoping he'd walk away, but he didn't. He just stood there, fixed in place. I brushed it off, telling myself it was nothing. Maybe he was lost in thought or zoned out, but something about him made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I quickly finished in that aisle and moved over to the drinks, thinking I'd shake him off. A few minutes later, though, I glanced to my left, and there he was again, a few feet away, just watching me, his face half hidden in shadow. He was tall, with messy hair and clothes that looked off, almost too big for his body, like he was wearing someone else's clothes. At this point, I started to feel uneasy. I sped up, heading to the other side of the store to grab some cleaning supplies. I was trying to stay focused, but every so often, I'd feel that heavy gaze on me. When I turned around, sure enough, he'd be there, always just a few steps behind. He never got close enough for me to see him clearly, but he was close enough to unsettle me. I thought about going to the front desk and reporting him, but I figured the store was so empty they'd probably just dismiss it. So I kept my head down and tried to ignore him, hoping he'd eventually lose interest. I made my way to the electronics section, hoping maybe the bright lights and TVs would make me feel less vulnerable. But that was when things took a turn. While I was browsing through the aisles, I heard footsteps approaching from behind, slow, deliberate, echoing in the quiet store. My heart started racing, and I could feel my hands begin to shake. I turned around quickly, hoping it was just a staff member, but it wasn't. The man was closer than he'd ever been, his face pale, his eyes locked onto mine with a dead, almost hollow expression. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, staring. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't respond. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, like he was trying to figure something out. I could see now that his clothes were stained and his hands were bruised, like he'd been in a fight. Panic was setting in, and I felt trapped, my only way out blocked by him. Slowly, I started backing away, keeping my eyes on him, but he just matched my steps, moving forward every time I moved back. Desperation kicked in. I needed to get out of there. I darted around a corner, hoping to lose him in the maze of aisles, and hurried down toward the front of the store. The fluorescent lights above buzzed louder than usual, creating this constant, unnerving hum that added to my anxiety. When I looked back, I couldn't see him anymore, but I wasn't about to let my guard down. As I rounded the corner toward the exit, I nearly ran into one of the night staff, an older guy stocking shelves. I quickly explained that there was someone following me, that he was acting strange and looked like he was about to do something. The employee looked at me like I was crazy. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked, his tone dismissive. I didn't see anyone. I knew what I'd seen, though, and the fear on my face must have convinced him, because he finally nodded and offered to walk me to the front. We made our way toward the doors, and I started to feel a small sense of relief. But that relief was short-lived. Just as we reached the checkout area, I heard it again, that slow, deliberate sound of footsteps. I whipped around, and there he was, standing right in the middle of the aisle, watching me with that same blank stare. I glanced at the employee, hoping he'd finally see what I was talking about, but the look on his face told me everything I needed to know. He still couldn't see the man. The employee stammered, looking uncomfortable. "You should go home," he mumbled, then quickly turned and disappeared into one of the aisles. I was on my own. I bolted for the exit, pushing through the automatic doors, almost tripping over myself in the process. I made it outside and ran straight to my car, fumbling for my keys with shaking hands. When I looked back at the store, the man was standing just inside the doors, watching me, his face barely visible in the faint glow of the lights. I jumped into my car, locked the doors, and sped out of the parking lot, not daring to look back. My heart was pounding, my body drenched in sweat. I didn't slow down until I was halfway home, my mind racing with questions. Who was that man? Why was he following me? And why couldn't the employee see him? For days after, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every time I left the house, I found myself looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see that man lurking somewhere in the shadows. I started avoiding Walmart altogether, especially at night. Eventually, I did some research, hoping to find some kind of explanation. I read that there'd been incidents at that Walmart over the years, rumors of people seeing strange things in the aisles, of shoppers feeling like they were being followed. Some even said the store was haunted, that strange things happened late at night. I don't know if I believe in ghosts or spirits, but whatever that thing was, it wasn't normal. It was like it had latched onto me, and even now, I still can't shake the feeling that it's out there, waiting. Every now and then, I catch myself glancing out my window at night, half expecting to see him standing there, watching, with that same empty, hollow expression.